Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 61 of Podcast of Five Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast of Five Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud, and topic by topic, day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Catch updates about the podcast or for other news, give us a follow on your social media platform of choice, listed in the description below. I'm your host, GM, and oversee your Podcast of Five Rings, Obsidian, joined tonight by the resident wildcard, Mao.
Yo.
Mao.
I
And
went
the
second.
what?
I said I went second.
Yeah, you did.
Threw me off.
You weren't ready for it, but whoever is. The wall that will not fall, Tetsuo, is also here.
I'm ready.
And that jerk Ned is at Gencon, and I'm so jealous. I didn't get to go this year.
We should call
Yeah,
him
you
up.
almost
I mean,
always go.
I still could have gone, but it would have been Todd
Just
got
weren't feeling it.
no. Well, Todd wasn't quick on the updraw this year for hotels. They like if you got like the VIP thing or whatever, where you have first access to the hotels that are connected to the con, they sell out in like 15 minutes, and I think he forgot about what time it started, so he didn't get a hotel next to the con, if I remember correctly. And
That sounds right.
yeah, so
Yeah, I feel like I remember him talking about that.
yeah, so I was like, I don't want to walk. It's going to cost more too, and there's not really that much stuff I'm excited for. I more just want to like see people and do stuff and eat really good Indianapolis food. So I was like, and I need to save money anyway. So I was like, I can skip out this year. I can do it next year, either or. And I posted this in one of the Discords. I was like, I'm seeing Gen Con pictures and already getting the nod at Gen Con blues.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That's me every year.
Well, it's for y'all, it's literally like going almost up the entire country. So
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's a bit of a trip.
you have to get a flight as well. And it's already, I mean, it's not like that bad for a 4-day convention and price and stuff if you get like other people to room with you, but
Yeah. It's also just so many people.
yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
I've seen the pictures. It looks crowded as hell.
it is. So, but it's fun, and there you go. I'm not there, so I'm here in the hell of work where overtime just finally ended, and we're still busy as crap for the most part. Other than the past 2 days, it's been good.
I guess
the past 2
school
days.
is starting back up too, right?
Yep, school starts in
yeah.
like a week here, so.
Yeah.
After that hits, we'll be through the worst of it too. So I'm already thinking about what I'm going to do next for a PvP game and trying to brainstorm something.
PvP?
Ooh,
PvP, yeah. So
play
we'll
by
see.
post.
Oh.
We'll see if I come up with anything. But anyways, we're not here to talk about my life. I want to hear about you guys
No?
too.
I haven't been doing a whole lot. I've been watching through Supernatural because I haven't watched in like a couple of years, so I'm seasons behind.
I only watched the first few seasons of it.
It's 13 seasons long.
Yeah, I know,
So
it's
it's
still
quite an
going.
undertaking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think they're gonna start their 14th in a bit.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Have you seen the one where they're on Scooby-Doo yet?
No, that's a newer. I think that was the last season. So I'm on season 10 for the first time because I've only had seen up to season 9 before.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. When you say they were on Scooby Doo, are you meaning like it was a cartoon episode?
Well, they did like a crossover.
Yeah,
with
they
it.
did a literal crossover with Scooby Doo.
Because
All right.
Scooby-Doo's crossed over with everything, pretty much.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Don nods on multiple occasions. What about you, Tets? What have you been doing?
It's been a lot of different things. Been working,
Just plastic models, as far as the eye can see.
I have been doing. I got caught up on my models. I've actually gone through my whole backlog, and I now have no more models to build.
I should do that.
What?
Yeah.
What? I don't
Yep.
believe it.
So I guess I could finish painting a couple of the guys that came with one of the tanks, but I'm not going to use them for any diorama, so they're kind of just there. But I've been doing that. I picked back up Digimon World Next. Digimon World Next Order because
you want to play Digimon Fire Emblem.
That too. But I was stuck at a point, and I realized what it was that I was doing wrong, and it was a really, really stupid mistake that I was doing. I was training way inefficiently. I'll just boil it down to that. So now that I realize that, I'm like, oh, like I have a rookie that's like 3 times the stats of his Mega last generation. Like, okay, I can see how I messed up. So, but beyond that,
go on. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that last night I was behind on Ruby, and it was my wife's birthday last night, so we binge watched all of the latest season of Ruby. So that was fun.
That's a good birthday date.
Yep, we did that, and I told her we could have whatever she wanted for dinner, and so we had mozzarella sticks and popcorn for dinner last night.
That's an awesome dinner too.
So it was a good night.
Have either of you got a chance to really look through? We talked about it a little bit, but the Pathfinder yet?
A little bit. It's a lot. It's like,
it's 400 pages of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot to look through.
It's a whole book almost.
I haven't been stopped long enough in front of a computer to do that. So
I'm sure we'll talk about it next week, probably.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That's
I wonder if Meta plans to play any this week.
I don't know. I didn't see if that Lily had posted anything about it, but I haven't really been on social media a lot the last few days. So
he doesn't want to get the blues.
They've been playing lots of card games. I'm sure he'll have all kinds of stuff to tell us about card games. But yeah, so I think it looks cool, but we'll delve into that more. I think we're going to do it for the September monthly module, I'm sure. I think they have a module for it too, actually.
They have a few,
actually.
Mod.
So we'll probably do one of those, I'm sure. But anyways.
That'll be fun.
Why don't we get into our topics?
Sure.
Yes? Mao, you were first.
All right. Well, last week, on the 23rd, D&D announced. First they announced that they're actually coming out with a Magic the Gathering themed book, which is
an actual book, not a PDF.
The Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like Ravnica.
You want to Boros it up now?
I mean, maybe.
Or is it?
So yeah, maybe
is it's my style.
Yeah. So it's an entire, like, this is a physical book that's coming out in November, I think. A bunch of information to run, so you can run a campaign in Ravnica.
Mm-hmm.
I think they said almost all of the rule, like the classes and races and stuff, have already been shown in Unearthed Arcana.
Oh, really? They're not doing like Golgari or anything?
Well, like Golgari's probably the Spore Druid from Unearthed Arcana a little while ago, and then there was like an Inventor Wizard or something that was probably the Izzet. And then there's a really I can't remember the name, Pugilist or something kind of fighter that was probably
I thought you were going to say half man, half pug.
No,
that is horrifying.
And then they showed off recently the Minotaur race, which is confirmed to be in Ravnica book.
Charge and gore. I'm sure they're going to get something like that.
So yeah, I think that'll be cool. I'm interested to see what it'll involve.
Yeah.
I mean, Ravnica's actually, I'm not as huge of a fan of Ravnica, but I mean, I think it's
Tarkir.
Yeah,
which they have a thing.
Original Zendikar.
Yeah, which they have
Rise of the Eldrazi.
They have a thing for Tarkir, I believe, but it's a little it's like a little setting god thing. I think like a 10 or 15. I think they do. I might be wrong though. I know they have one for Innistrad and Zendikar.
Yes, I think they started with Zendikar. I don't think there's one for Tarkir.
I thought there was, but I could be wrong.
I thought they started with Innistrad, actually.
No, because there's definitely one for Battle for Zendikar, which was the set before Innistrad. Shadows over Innistrad.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah. Also on that day, they announced and released the Wayfarer's Guide to Eberron, which on the DM's Guild, this is not a physical book. It is only for digital download.
Yeah. I'm
It's
ignorant about Eberron.
Well, I wanted to just talk about Eberron because I love the place.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was. They had a contest for the 25th anniversary, maybe I can't remember the year. 20th anniversary. Of Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
And they ran a contest for a new setting, and it had 11,000 entrants.
Cool.
And this one was chosen. Yeah, it was 11,000 one-page proposals, and then they narrowed that down to 11 10-page versions, and then 3 125 page story Bibles, and this was the final. This is the winner.
Yeah, the competition was in 2002. So
Yeah.
Eberron.
And it was created by Keith Baker. That dude loves to talk about Eberron. He has a podcast. So I think a monthly podcast. He has a blog where he's talked a lot about it. He loves Eberron, and because of the way it's still owned by D&D. So unless they want to do something with it, he can't put out books or anything. But now after they announced that this book had come out, they also opened up the DM's Guide or Guild or whatever website so that anyone can put up their Eberron content. So he's already announced that he's going to be working on a lot of that.
That's cool.
Yeah. So the original, the short tagline description for Eberron was, it's Lord of the Rings meets Raiders of the Lost Ark meets the Maltese Falcon.
What?
It's not a traditional fantasy world.
Yeah.
He wanted there to be it was influenced by pulp action, like Raiders of the Lost Ark or Pirates of the Caribbean or the Mummy movies with Brendan Fraser.
Not the new horrible one, which is one of the worst blockbusters I've ever seen, but that's for another day.
And then the noir movies of Casablanca, Maltese Falcon, whatnot.
The Bogart films.
Yeah. And what I really like also is that it's not the traditional magic of Faerun D&D or whatnot. They call it very wide magic, not high magic.
Huh.
It's basically they have gone through basically a renaissance of such with magic, in that it's become more of a technology, but just low level magic. They have normal jobs that have access to cantrips and maybe first level rituals, like a lamplighter who repairs and creates ever burning torches that lights the city's streets, or a
electrician.
Yeah. Or a chef that uses prestidigitation to flavor food and can, cast purify food and drink.
Yeah.
This book even has descriptions of possible jobs and what their 1 or 2 spells would be. And then anything past 3rd level is super rare, comparatively. To have a level,
not live that long or something, or
no, just to have an actual class level is very rare. Players are supposed to be actual heroes.
Oh, gotcha.
Which also means that things like resurrection spells and teleportation spells are very hard to come by.
Who fights the monsters, Mal?
Well,
the hordes and hordes of monsters.
There are, so as part of the noir aspect, they had there are 12 houses, which are dynasty families or whatever. They're all that have they have what's called a dragon mark, which is a manifestation of a particular prophecy or whatever, that each house has their own. There's the mark of finding, or the mark of making, which the mark of making only appears on humans that have a relation to the House of Caneth or whatever. And these guys all they act more like giant corporations. They all have a monopoly on that. Like the House of Creation have a monopoly on creating magic items, basically. And there's the House of the House of the Mark of Hospitality, and they have like basically chain inns, like in all the big cities. There's a Golden Dragon Inn or something. I can't remember if that's the right name, but so you can do a lot with like the political or the intrigue of the different houses working against each other or whatnot. And then what is it? There's the House of Healing, I think, which they have that the marks also can power certain special magic items. So like you might be able to cozy up to a house to get access to their altar of resurrection, but that will cost you maybe favors or something. And then you also have to find someone that can power it with their dragon mark. And then it also takes basically other resources. So I know like you don't love resurrection everywhere or whatever as a easy thing to get. So
yeah, it
Some
makes
people
more
are like
sense to me that way, but we've talked about it before.
Yeah. It also the setting also features distant gods, as opposed to like in Faerun, a god can literally show up and do something. Whereas in Eberron, they basically you don't even know if they're real. They might not even be real, basically.
Yeah.
And clerics and the other divine casters sort of get their power based on just the faith alone, as opposed to actually getting it from a god or something.
Okay.
Also, alignment is a lot more ambiguous. There are no race outside of literal embodiments of an alignment, like an angel or demon, have a set alignment. So, like, you can have an evil silver dragon, or a lawful good orc.
Mm-hmm. A true neutral red dragon.
Right. Yeah. Any of those, and so, but also you'll have an evil cleric in a good aligned church, maybe because they don't
necessarily like lose their powers or anything.
Right. They don't lose. They still have all their faith or their divine magic.
Mm-hmm.
Either they're doing it just because they want to manipulate the followers, or that they actually somehow believe in certain tenets that they feel the deity represents, or whatever.
Yeah, it makes sense with the whole faith-based thing.
Right. Also, the current setting, like he has it's I think year 998 or something like that. Which is 2 years following a 100-year war called the Last War, which it went on for 100 years and kind of had a World War I feel, where it spurred on great strides in magic technology, and led to the creation of a sentient golem-type race called the Warforged, which are a very popular race.
Yeah.
They're basically playable golems. They're like completely sentient though and stuff, and not just like a programmed robot. But this war ended with like a World War II style tragic event called the Morning, which was an awful eldritch disaster that no one knows who or what did it, and destroyed an entire nation, because most of the lore is focused on this one continent. And there were originally 5 nations, and then that led to this civil war, basically. Or 5 nations under one kingdom, and they had a civil war and destroyed one, and it's kind of in a Cold War style situation.
Yeah.
Where everyone's like not sure who did it, if they're going to do it again, sort of thing.
Something tells me it's not going to be the last war.
Right. But he just wanted to have it like that, like, because there's a lot of settings that have this ancient catastrophe or whatever,
Yeah.
He wanted that to be a lot more present in the setting. Like all characters will have had some influence of the war, even if you don't want to focus on it in your campaign. Like it only came to an end 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Everyone's,
if you're a hero
been
guy,
alive
you probably
during it.
did something during it.
Right. But like he wanted it to be a spectrum. You don't have to like play all of these things. Like there's a lot going on in Eberron, but you can just focus on what you want to play. Like with the pulp action style, like the cover of the book is a warforged hanging off of an airship preparing to jump onto a lightning rail, which is a magical train basically. I know, so he actually has a podcast he's on called Manifest Zone, which is a term from Eberron, just about magical areas that there's just an area that can leak magic or whatever and create weird effects. But it's him and like 3 other people that just talk about running Eberron yourself or something, you know, how you can incorporate all these different themes or whatever. And one of them likes to run like their new the new people that they play in Eberron through like the first episode of Firefly, the train job episode specifically.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's there's tons of exotic locations. There's a continent covered by giant ruins, which is to say they are literally like huge ruins created by giants.
Oh, okay.
Because of the like 8
giant ruins that are also giant.
Yeah, 80,000 years ago or something, the very first nation were these giants, or the first civilization were giants that at some point they've just like descended and like from their perch, like they're no longer, you know, as civilized or intelligent as they used to be. So there's all these ruins left behind on this fairly unexplored continent. Dragons in the setting are a lot more powerful, sort of like, I guess, kind of reminds me of Shadowrun. Like you don't want to mess with dragons.
Yeah.
And they actually are pretty much located on their own tiny island, like doing their own thing. And usually if they're involved in something, it's a lot more like subtle and stuff.
So they have their own society and stuff.
I assume, I don't think a lot has been written on it. Like again, most of the because there were quite a few books in 3.5 specifically, which is when this came out, for Eberron, but it's still mostly focused on this one main continent. But there were bits about the others.
So is the 5e book picking up where the 3.5 stuff left off, or
it is a book to bring to sort of bring new, like introduce Eberron to new people.
Okay.
It's
like a setting guide almost.
Yeah, it's the Wayfarer's Guide to Eberron. Like
Okay.
It's got a lot of these themes it hits on, but he also wanted it to at least if contain new information or just a new look on the information, like even if you had all the previous books. Like I know he said when he was going through the all the different religions, like he didn't just want to copy and paste from 3.5, so he tried to write it in a way like what you as a follower might have like view these religions, or how, you know, what their tenets might mean to you or something. So he also included like there are different rules for like running it specifically in 3.5. There's a table of what's, you know, like for character creation, everyone's got a regret. What's yours? Roll, you know, on a D10 table or something.
Yeah.
Or a table for like maybe you're in debt. What do you need 200 gold for? Also, there was an optional rule that reminded me of fate aspects. Like, you know how you can use descriptions for the scene or something.
Yeah.
Like he recommends, like, you know, listing these off of for people to play off of. Like if you're in a bar, it's got the tag, you know, chandelier, so that you know you can swing from it or something.
Okay.
So just kind of play up the cinematic aspects of it.
Yeah. If you're going for the Indiana Jones style kind of thing, then yeah, that makes sense.
Because I think it even recommends like it might have, I can't remember if it has rules for hero points, because I know in 3.5 I think they had action points as an optional rule, just kind of that you can use in a fight to get like a more cinematic, like let you, you know, perform a particular action well, or, you know, a boost or to it. Yeah, so like even at level 1, you were to make it to a level 1 player character, you did something remarkable probably. If you were a soldier, you probably weren't just some grunt, but you were involved in some great triumph or defeat.
And now you're a semi badass.
Yeah, even the most powerful NPCs of the settings, or I should say the most powerful non-selfish aligned NPCs usually have some limitation. Like there's the most powerful wizard, I think, loses most of her power when she leaves her tower.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that's like a high druid that's literally a tree.
Can't go anywhere.
Yeah. Basically, it needs heroes to because it's got plenty of villains.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then the intrigue side, you've got the houses that run like giant corporations. You could easily run like a shadow run style game of if you wanted or whatnot. They have control over, like, there's the sending stones, which are operated like telegrams. The mark of scribing only shows up on gnomes, and they've all gained power in the last war because they could play all the sides because everyone wanted what they had basically, and they were held in check by a particular treaty under the Kingdom of Galifar, but that kingdom no longer exists, so they're kind of like wondering what is keeping them in check now. Like,
yeah,
so that was the kingdom that got destroyed by the.
Yes, it was the Kingdom of Galifar with 5 nations. Sire was the one that was destroyed, and now is actually in the middle of around the middle of the continent is now the Mournland, which is he wanted to create just basically the biggest dungeon he could and put it in the middle of the continent for people to like be involved in if they wanted to, because it's just all ruin now. And so you can be involved in trying to find all these maybe troves of magic items and whatnot. So yeah, but there were 4 of the 4 leftover nations exist, and there are also some newer, smaller nations that got created. Like I know one, I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically like this group of what you might consider monsters traditionally, like orcs, trolls, gnolls, are trying to create their own nation, and it's run by 3 hags. There is a goblinoid nation, like they have their own nation, which is more established than the other one, because they were basically mercenaries in the last war.
Yeah,
more so than the other creatures, so they had like more like influence and friends, and so they were.
It makes sense they would integrate more when alignment's not as important and stuff.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people still see them as like maybe savages and stuff, but it's not really. It's not as given. Like in traditionally, there's a picture on the internet of like an elf riding down or about to on a horse charging at like an orc. And one is an ancient protector of a sacred grove, and the other is a marauding, whatever thing. Yeah. It was the elf, because the elf is part of it was a particular elf of this very like xenophobic race of like to the point where if they catch you with their like favored weapon, which are like dual scimitars, they'll probably try and kill you before using them. And then the orc was like a protector of his land or whatever. And then lots of moral ambiguity, which is very in these days. Like an Inquisitor. We need our
shades of gray.
Yeah, this is all about shades of gray. The Inquisitor might be torturing innocents to root out an evil cult, but and if they're stopped, the cult flourish, right? Or orcs are raiding on a newly established settlement, but the settlement is built on the orc sacred ground, which is eroding the wards that keep back a great evil. Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. I love the technological standpoint of the setting. Like everyone can have access to like little magic. Basically, they have what are called. Like even in the war, there was like they had wand. What are they? Wand something. Now I forgot what they're called. Wand slingers, I think. Basically, which were like artillery in our style of armies.
Modern warfare.
Yeah, which because it's 5th edition now, he like recommends giving to make like a non-player they would have the magic initiate feat because that gives you access to like
a cantrip,
some cantrips and stuff.
Yeah,
but
sense.
they can only use it while arcane focus specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My magic blunderbuss shoots firebolts. Or whatever that spell is called.
There's there's even like the planes are actually planets. It's like own solar system as opposed to like actual different dimensions that you would travel to. There's the dream world, which involves a bit of psychicness or like psychic whatnot. Which was more of a 3.5 thing because 5e doesn't really have any psychic stuff going on yet.
They don't have any sonic classes or anything.
Right. But it also involves a lot of the cosmic horror stuff. And then I know like there's one area which was only recently settled, which is kind of has a Wild West feel to it. Yeah, there's just a lot going on and gives a lot of stuff to like however you want to play. He's also Keith. Whenever he talks about it, he's like, if you don't like something, just throw it out or do it your way. Like Eberron's for anyone who wants to do anything with it. Like he's very, like every time he starts talking about like if he gets too deep into how he views things in Eberron, he's like, well, that's just my view. You might have a completely different view on it.
Yeah.
Even though he created it, he's very like he wants it to be for everyone. Yeah. I just really love the setting.
When's it coming out?
So that book is already out. It's 176 pages, I think. It's $20, which one weird thing is all of the mechanics, like because they have the rules for dragon marks, which are character variant or race variants.
Yep.
Because they only appear on certain races. And then there's, I think they said they're going to add the Artificer class to it because it's a digital-only document. They can add to it later.
Yeah.
And if you buy it once, you get all the changes. But it's almost kind of like Unearthed Arcana of a sense. It's almost like an early access book.
Yeah.
Like basically the mechanic side is going to be changing if they decide that's something. Because there are the race that he created like 4 races for it, specifically the Warforged, the Changelings, which can change their appearance at will. The Shifters, which have like a minor form of lycanthropy, and then the other one I always forget because I don't really care about them so much because they're psychic humans. I think they're like the Calathar or something. They're not. I haven't really paid a lot of attention to the psychic stuff in D&D, to be honest. But yeah, so I don't know. It's weird that they've not done something like that before, but it's kind of an Unearthed Arcana early access thing. But all of the fluff is like that's not changing, and it's also how Keith said it's how he's running Eberron at his table is in 5th edition is with these rules. So
gotcha.
Which was enough for a lot of people who are already interested in Eberron.
That's cool. I guess they're more also doing it to experiment with like bigger setting books and stuff like that. Yeah,
well, also possibly if they can like do 2 at once because they have the Ravnica one coming out. They're also going to have. They're also opening up another adventure league specifically for Eberron. Like it's not going to be connected to the typical adventure league that they're already running. Like I don't think you can cross over characters.
Okay.
Because the rules in Eberron aren't set in stone yet. I think is probably the reason. Because Adventure League is like only official sources, like no Unearthed Arcana stuff allowed. It's
correct.
Like, where you can just go to a store and play.
Yep.
But yeah, they're going to have level 1 through 10, I think, Eberron coming later in this year. But yeah, I'm just excited to see more. I love the setting. If I were to ever run a campaign, like a long-term campaign, it'd probably be in this.
That's your favorite D&D setting?
Probably. The book also has a lot
No love
on
for
what's
Spelljammer, I see.
The book also has a lot on this called Sharn, the City of Towers, which is the city made up of just towers, all like it's miles high.
Spires and spires and spires.
Yeah, like mile high towers, and like has a random fall table, like because you might fall,
you'll
roll
get
a
knocked
D10,
off
what
or
happened?
something too.
Right. It's like you may have passed one of the mini bridges that are warded with featherfall, so you're safe. Or you might have been caught by an angel that was flying around, or you fell through some cargo and pissed some people off or something like that. It's just that's a large a large section for running a campaign and setting up a campaign. Like what's your villain? Roll for what's the villain's motivation? How how your characters meet? Like there's a giant magic university in the city too, so you might want to play
cool.
that kind of game or something. So
Magic School Dropout.
Yeah, or maybe you're going to the jungle continent as literal Indiana Jones adventures or something.
Yeah,
which is where
you're a professor at the Magic Academy.
Yeah,
he was also an archaeologist.
In a museum.
It rots itself.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's got future reading section because there are to like reference the different source books from before, and then he also wrote some novels which are they're not canon technically because he doesn't want to actually advance the story of Eberron. Like he likes the setting of
you like everybody being able to sandbox it and stuff,
being the default. Like you can obviously run a story later on, but you're gonna figure out the story elements if you want to do that.
Yeah, he just doesn't want to force people into like certain events happening, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think he likes that as the starting point for someone's story because there's a lot of hooks. One thing I know, even like whenever when writing the original books and stuff, he'd if he mentioned a place, he might there's this tiny town over here near this forest that has an archway to another dimension, and then he tried to put hooks all over the place basically because there's an actual play podcast I listened to that that's how the very first arc was involved that, and because the DM was like, I was reading through it, I saw mention of this town or whatever, and that's how I started my campaign.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Just, there's all sorts of things going on. Even if you can't go too deeply into it, he's tried to put a lot of hooks everywhere.
Cool.
Yeah.
Give me Dark Sun or give me Death.
That's a pretty cool setting too.
It is, but I don't really have like a favorite D&D setting per se. Mm-hmm. So I don't know a whole lot about all the different ones. I kind of know the very basics. Like Eberron was one I didn't know. I just assumed it was like another kind of Forgotten Realms-esque setting.
Nope.
Which it apparently isn't.
No.
So that's what I learned today.
It's
the
pretty
more
cool.
I know. Yeah, I mean it does sound cool. I like low fantasy stuff, and it's cool that D&D has something. I mean, you didn't really say low fantasy, wide fantasy, but lower fantasy.
Right, magic everywhere, but low magic everywhere.
Yeah. All right, cool. You up, Tets? What do you got?
Am I?
It's you. Step on the ride. You were taller than the little guy holding up his hand. Are you taller than what you're going to talk about?
No, in no way, shape, or form. No, back I think it was 5 or 6 months ago. It was back I think episode 40, if I remember. I looked this morning and forgot the number. I talked about the Godzilla movie Planet of the Monsters on Netflix. It's CGI anime. It's done by written by the head writer for Madoka Magica. But the second movie came out, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. We've just had everything going on, so I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. But I watched it the day after it dropped because, of course, I did. And it was amazing. The name of the movie. That's the 5 second review. It's amazing. Go watch it. No, the name of the movie though is Godzilla: City on the Edge of Battle, which I thought was an interesting title. Coming into the movie, like it's a little bit of a mouthful, and so mild spoilers from the first one. If you're worried about things, it's nothing that I hadn't really talked about in the last video, so go watch the movie or the first video we talked about things. But to kind of catch you guys up on what had happened, they had Godzilla monsters started coming on Earth. Godzilla attacked. Humanity was not going to win. 2 different alien species end up coming to Earth to help them fight off Godzilla. The Exif and the Saludo, I think is how you pronounce the other one. And then so they both appeared, tried to help us fight Godzilla. We all failed, so we all decided to get on a ship together and fly around the universe trying to find a planet that we can call home by using jump gates. We were running out of supplies. We realized, okay, maybe there's been enough time gone by because of jump gates that it's been like 10,000 years. Maybe Godzilla won't be around anymore. Ends up it was 20,000 years that had passed, and Godzilla was still around. But there's no humankind on Earth. So the fact that this was called City on the Edge of Battle, I was intrigued because it was like, it shouldn't be a city. Like, there was one, you did see some like semi-humanoid characters, which end up making a more prominent appearance in this movie. But it still was a little like, I'm curious where this is going with it. So since I just mentioned them, I guess I'll bring them up next. Eventually, things happen and they meet up with this group, and it's essentially these they haven't really identified if it's humankind that have been left over that have evolved into something new, or things evolved into a human like appearance. What was that called? Convergent evolution? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Type deal. So they weren't really sure. And the people pretty much worship Mothra. Like they're very much the like if you've seen any Godzilla movie with Mothra, you'll know about the people I'm talking about. Like there's the 2 twins that are the heralds of Mothra, and like the whole 9 yards. This is clearly Mothra's tribe.
Mothra.
Which honestly, Mothra. Sorry, tangent. But Mothra is like I think my favorite Godzilla monster besides Godzilla, because I don't know. I've always loved Mothra. I
think he's the one everyone knows.
Well, Mothra actually had his own movie series before he joined Godzilla. Like, there's a legitimate Mothra line of movies.
But Tats, what about King Kong? What about King Kong?
I would kick you right now, but I can't really kick you.
They're setting up that movie universe, right?
I know.
I mean, there's already a movie with the 2 of them.
Yeah, there is. It's not.
They're doing
not
another one.
Godzilla one.
The new King Kong is in the same Godzilla universe.
Oh, I hadn't heard anything.
They're trying to build the cinematic universe in the new King Kong movie, or not King Kong, but the new Godzilla that's coming. But anyways,
yeah. Which still fun, but King Kong. I mean, come on, he's just a giant monkey. But
that's why they made him so freaking huge.
Giant moth, come on.
Or a giant lizard.
Exactly. Way more entertaining than a giant monkey. But no, so but the other prominent monster in City on the Edge of Battle is Mechagodzilla. They made reference to him in the first movie. The Bila Saludo in particular had helped humankind create Mechagodzilla. When they were going to activate it, Godzilla attacked. They didn't get to activate Mechagodzilla, but they were like, hey, maybe we can figure out where he's at and activate him. Things don't really go as per these movies as planned.
So.
But the form that Mechagodzilla ends up taking in this movie is really, really interesting. So I guess mild spoilers for the movie. So I guess for the next 10, 20 seconds, plug your ears and la 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 if you don't want to hear. But the Saludo, when they built Mechagodzilla, they used this thing called nanometal, and nanometal is a metal designed to obviously you have nanomachines that are helping it and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's kind of this living metal, and that's what Mechagodzilla was made of. Well, this living metal permeates the city that he was in, and it's become this living city of metal. And that is obviously the city on the edge of battle. And so they kind of start making that their headquarters, and they start using that nanometal to produce weapons to try to fight Godzilla with. In the first movie, they found a working strategy for fighting Godzilla. If you want to know how, go watch the movie because it's awesome, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But they try to build on that in this one, and you guys know me with mechs. They upgraded the battle suits to fly, and they called them vultures.
So it has everything you want in it.
Oh, it was so good. Like, so they call them the vultures, and again, they use this nanometal to allow the pilot to essentially be able to interface with this thing on a one-to-one like basis. So they don't have to worry that they're like piloting something. It's their waving of the hand to say that it's just them extended. But they end up making 3 of them, and the 3 pilots. One of them's the main character, and I guess semi-love interest, and then one of the Saludo. But
Godzilla has a love interest?
No, the main character, not
I'm
Godzilla.
just messing around.
Although, I mean, no. Been around for 10,000 years. How do we know it's the same Godzilla? Maybe it's...
Apparently there are novel prequels to these movies.
Oh, there are? I did not know that.
You should not have told Tets. Now he'll have to read them.
Like novella, they're like 200 pages.
Yeah,
so I don't know if they've been translated, so there might be fan translation.
I'll have to hunt those down.
They're light novels.
Oh.
The A1 Studios. It's going to adapt.
Please say it ain't so.
No.
So one of the things that I thought was really interesting. So in the first movie, they kind of just portrayed the humans, the Exif, and the Saludo as this just unified force against Godzilla. There's was no racial tensions whatsoever. And then in this one, you start realizing that there were cracks that you didn't see, and you're starting to see the fault lines. Not so much between the humans and the Exif and the Saludo, but rather between the Saludo and the Exif. They, in all reality, they kind of are, if you were to take just general fantasy tropes, elves and dwarves, if you were to make dwarves larger than humans. But because the Saludo like create things, and then the Exif are like these spiritual, mystical people who, they're
all noble and elegant and stuff.
And they're higher evolved than you, and
They're elves.
Exactly. But so both of their stories, actually, the planets they come from had been destroyed by a monster similar to Godzilla. And again, part of the whole idea is that whatever sentient life on a planet decides that they're more powerful than a god, or they are the god.
The
of the
anti-spirals.
Yeah. Then that planet will create an epitome of destruction to bring them down, and then allow the planet to regrow again. And so the Exif were chased off their planet by theirs. The Saludo, in order to defeat theirs, threw their planet into a black hole and then fled the planet.
Godzilla log on. Who the hell do you think I am?
So they kind of have this background in sort of fighting Godzilla-like things, but not exactly being
Kaiju,
successful.
basically.
Yeah, but not really being successful. Like, the only reason why the Saludo did one was because they threw their whole planet into a black hole. I don't think that counts as success, personally. Maybe other people might see otherwise.
They're still alive, and it's not.
But
depends on your pragmatism level.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the interesting things is, like, you start to see the thought process difference between these two races. And so humankind is kind of caught between the two. And specifically the main character, Haruo, and he has to make a decision. How are we? Because all the remainder of humankind is kind of looking up to him as the leader, and so he has to make this decision. How are we as a race going to proceed, and how are we going to continue? And you see like a lot of different influences on both sides. One part that like the geekiness in me about Godzilla movies that got me really excited. At one point, the Exif character, who's kind of his like, I guess, spiritual mentor, guide, whatever his name is, Mephistes, which to me sounds too much like Mephistopheles.
That's what I was about to say.
But
Mr.
I think that's on
Mephistopheles.
purpose. But he tells him, like, you know, the creature that destroyed our planet, it took us a long time to give him a name, and even that name we don't say aloud because he is so terrifying he would make Godzilla quake in his boots. Like, is essentially the idea.
So you gotta, he's gonna fight him eventually.
Yeah, well, and so he comes over and he whispers the name in Haruo's ear, and he's like, just remember this name when fear will overtake you. And like at the end of the movie, you know, you see him remembering the name, and, you know, things happen. Credits roll. But in the post-credit scene, they actually reveal the name that was spoken to him. And again, mild spoilers, and I don't know how much you guys are worried about spoilers yourselves.
Go
on.
on.
You guys are on Godzilla stuff anyway.
Is it King Ghidorah?
It's King Ghidorah. I was so happy. Movie 3 is gonna have King Ghidorah.
His ultimate nemesis, as it's called.
Yes. Well, because King Ghidorah himself was, and then Mecha King Ghidorah, and then in the final movie of the whatever that era was, you had Weapon X, which became Kaiser Ghidorah, who was like a really big bad boss.
Godzilla King of Monsters, the one that comes out next year here, which it was shown at like Comic-Con, was involves Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and his ultimate nemesis, the three-headed King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
So.
King Ghidorah is so awesome. I really do like him as a villain monster. But yeah, the movie's good. It is very good, especially if you are into the whole Godzilla thing, kaiju movies. And if you're into anime, because again, it follows a whole bunch of anime tropes, and it's done by anime teams. So I mean, it scratches all the right itches for me. So I'm looking forward to the next one.
They have a release date yet?
I think it just looks
like another half year to a year probably.
Yeah, I think it was about 6 months. Like it was 6. So it released here 3 months after it releases in Japan, and that was the case.
Planet Eater says this year.
Is it this year? Yeah.
November in Japan this year.
Okay, so then we'll see it probably in February next year. Ooh, my birthday.
Yeah, because we got this. Japan got this one in May.
Yep, and we got it in July. And then actually in the last episode when we were measuring out the dates, I was like, I guess we're gonna get this next one in July. And so I'm hoping February. That'd be nice.
I mean, because this one was picked up by, it looks like Netflix, where the first one was Funimation. Yeah. So the second,
was the first one Funimation?
That's what this is saying. Oh wait, no, sorry, it is all Netflix. Sorry, it was. Okay. I was looking at current period, so that's why. Sorry, Shin Godzilla was Funimation.
Gotcha.
Which is 2016 to the present is the current period of Godzilla.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be about the same time frame then.
Yep.
Better or worse than the last one?
I think better, but more because the first one, if you didn't know that it was the start of a trilogy and it was easy to miss, there were a lot of questions that would get brought up, and you're like, what was the point of this? Who was that character? Why did they focus on this thing?
This one, they get more into the swing of things?
Yeah, they start answering some of those questions. They don't leave as many unanswered questions in the movie itself as well. I feel like it's a little bit more action driven than the last one. And I mean, to be fair too, it's Godzilla, so they like each movie he's going to suddenly get more powers and more powerful. Right. So they kind of turned him up a little bit even more. So, but they did a lot more with character development and showing the positives and negatives and showing them struggle with things, as opposed to just this guy's pissed at Godzilla and wants to kill him. This guy is the leader of the military. You had more character and more personality to them.
That's cool.
So, and you got to hate characters you liked, and you got to like characters you hated, which is always a good thing in my book. Like, if you get to the point where you're like, I despise this character, but right now I really feel for him, or no, I loved you, and now you betrayed me.
No, I love you.
That's I always feel like that's a good caricature of humankind. So
I'm talking about after playing it for 3 weeks and telling my story on a previous episode about how I didn't get to play it for a few days after it came out, I'm going to talk about Octopath Traveler, a game that I was really, 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 really looking forward to. If you've been listening to the podcast, you would know.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it for a long time.
Yes, you have.
Yep. So it's the Octopath Traveler is a game for the Nintendo Switch developed by Square Enix in collaboration with Acquire, who is the studio behind such classics as Way of the Samurai. No, more well known for they weren't the ones who did
Bravely Default.
Bravely Default, were they?
I assume so. The people that worked on Bravely Default did
work on this game. Yeah, I think it was Acquire then. For some reason, I'm thinking Acquire wasn't, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
This is here in collaboration with Acquire.
Yeah.
But developed by Square Enix.
Yeah, so I think they basically like work with Square now and stuff like that. But yeah, so they're putting out basically like what old school style Final Fantasy games are kind of like, that more style of game as compared to the SNES era of Final Fantasy, as compared to
the greatest,
the modern slant. Yes, the greatest game of all time, Final Fantasy 15. But no, so the big thing about Octopath Traveler is that it has 8 different characters, thus the term Octopath. They each have their own individual stories, and you kind of meet up and they help each other out along their stories. Another big part of the game is that it has path actions, which I would describe as sort of like Paper Mario-esque character abilities. If anyone listening has ever played a Paper Mario game, it's ways to interact with NPCs and in the environment outside of battle. Each character has their own unique one, but they kind of overlap with each other. So Ulbrich is a warrior, that's his class. So he can challenge people to duels to help you get inside houses where you might have an NPC you need to talk to for a side quest, or there might be like a treasure chest, and he'll fight a one-on-one duel with this person. If you beat them, they're knocked unconscious, you can go in. Whereas Haunted can also do that as a hunter, but she does it differently, whereas you can only use her beast abilities. And if you fail, you lose reputation in town. What are you going to ask, Mel?
Can't they sometimes be used a little differently?
Yeah,
At least,
I mean,
I think I heard like there was this one with the duelist guy. What was his name?
Ulbrich, yeah.
Ulbrich. At one point, there was this couple or something that the guy seemed basically like a wimp, so you can lose the duel on purpose to impress the chick.
I haven't actually got to that part yet or done that side quest, but you do use them to do
part of a specific side quest as opposed to just a use of the ability.
Yeah, and all the side quests involve like finding out which character path action that you need to do to complete the quest. Sometimes you'll have to get an NPC to follow you to some other city You'll have to like steal or buy an item off of a character. That's like one example of how they're different. So there's a thief class. You can steal items from NPCs, which is really good and helps you get really good gear, and you don't waste money on it. Or you can buy them. And basically, there's noble path actions and rogue path actions. Noble ones are you have to be like a higher level than like the general level area of the town to like actually be able to perform them most of the time. Whereas rogue ones you can do at any time, but there's a chance of failure, and if you fail, you suffer reputation loss in the town. You can fail 5 times, and if you fail 5 times, you can't do any path actions in the town unless you like bribe the barkeep to basically put in a good word for you to the citizens. Go, no, they're cool, but so that's
totally won't steal from you again.
Yeah, exactly, and then you just try to steal from them again. But anyways, the that's kind of like the main out of combat conceit of the game. The in combat conceit is it's a lot like Bravely Default.
I'm told the combat is really good.
It is amazing. You like Bravely Default, you get boost points basically, which you can use to take multiple actions on one turn. But in Bravely Default, whereas you had to defend, you just get one every turn basically. In this game, they can enhance your spells, make status effects like buffs or debuffs last longer. Offensive stuff does more damage.
Can I skip random encounters?
There is an ability that you can learn that doesn't skip them. At least I haven't discovered one that does so yet. There's like 4 secret classes that I haven't found the shrines for yet. There may be one in there, but there is one that I think halves encounter rate.
That should be a feature in all RPGs.
Yeah, and the encounter rate is pretty like not high.
Oh, that's good.
As is.
Not
so,
Final Fantasy 1 levels.
Yeah. And you can pretty much like flee easily. But the combat's fun, so I don't mind fighting the random encounters.
Well,
I have 61 hours in the game right now. I'm basically 3/4 the way through because every character has 4 chapters. I've done every character's 3rd chapter. And I am over leveled because I just like fighting the battles and capturing monsters and doing.
Well, it's also got
stuff.
jobs, right? Which means
and the job system is like my favorite way to do old school.
Doesn't
JRPGs?
Doesn't the combat also isn't it like got a bit of the Shin Megami influence of like hitting weaknesses?
Yep. The other big thing is that each enemy has a weakness to a certain weapon type, whereas Shin Megami Tensei games are all about an element. There are elemental attacks and stuff. There's 6 different elements, I believe, maybe 7. No, there's only 6. There's fire, ice, lightning, wind, light, and darkness. And basically, when you figure out enemy's weakness, just like the SMT games, you'll know it every time you encounter that enemy.
Right.
The Scholar class can also analyze enemies and find their weaknesses and stuff. And the enemies also have shield points, which is somewhat similar to SMT games, where you kind of try to break your enemy. So when they take a certain number of hits of their weakness, they'll lose a turn, and every attack you do against them will be a critical hit.
Okay.
So a lot of the strategy is saving up your BP so you can break them before they're going to use their big attack, or mitigating damage, like incoming damage, by trying to break all the enemies using your SP on moves that will hit the whole all the enemies and stuff like that. There's lots of cool strategy and stuff, and the boss fights actually get really hard towards the end, which I appreciate. It uses the system cleverly. It's just a lot of fun, the fighting, and the job system is a lot like 5, but not as versatile. You can't have more than one person multi-classing into a different job at one time. You're kind of like, if I have one of my characters as a merchant, none of my other characters can also be a merchant. So but at the same time, it's fun to learn the abilities. You get job points in every battle. So if people out there played FF5, you get abilities. You also have like passive skill things that you can always have equipped, and certain abilities you can only use when you're that specific job. So it's really fun to find out cool combinations of abilities. Like, one really good one is scholars are kind of like your black mage. Essentially, they have the 3 main element attacks: fire, ice, and lightning, and they also have a double hit version that's more strong. But so they're very SP intensive. You can put your scholar into dancer, and dancer has a passive SP regeneration that you get for getting so many skills unlocked in dancer that you can equip. So it becomes less SP intensive, and you can use your powerful spells more. So, like, one of my favorite ones is Hunter and Thief combined together. Hunter has lots of, like, trigger, like, percentage trigger for extra attacks, and, like, getting an extra turn at the end of every turn. So you can use that, like, if you put your like, I have my Thief and Hunter mixed together, so he has 4 different weapon types, and he also gets lots of extra action. So I'll use him to, like, break bosses a lot of the time, is my strategy. Since he has so many different weapons, odds are one of them the boss is probably vulnerable to, and then he gets lots of percentage chance for extra attacks and actions. So he might get to, like, attack 6 times in one turn and knock down 6 parts of his shield down. So it's been pretty highly praised for the most part that I've seen. Some people are more on it, and I understand why. The big, like, kind of, not really controversy, I'd say, but, like, sticking point going into the game is that do the 8 separate stories and stuff intersect at one point?
Right.
Go on. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, the reason I haven't really felt the need to play it is, my understanding is, at least for most of the time, they don't, like, interact at all.
Yeah, and there is some, like, immersion breaking and stuff.
Right.
And I can
why is this?
Yeah, like, there's a part where one of the characters gets thrown in a dungeon by a bad guy, and I'm like, where were the other characters at helping at this point?
Right.
So there's, like, that kind of stuff that's immersion breaking.
And then, like, why is this sweet whatever, I can't remember the class person.
Yeah, the cleric traveling with the thief while he steals stuff.
Yeah.
That is not as bad, I think. That's a bit more...
No, I just wish they honestly,
Yeah.
it's like you're playing 8 mini stories, and
Yeah.
the extras, like, outside of combat, they're not there, basically. So
yeah, you get little skits that are kind of like
I've
Tales
heard of
games, and those
but
are
they
good.
have to be in your party to trigger them.
Yeah, those are good. You can actually go to the inn and, like, get switch out party members and stuff and get theirs to trigger too, so you can hear what everyone has to say. It's kind of a pain still, but
Yeah.
you can do it if you're looking for that. I actually like them, and that's not really a big hang up for me. I was a little bit worried reading the reviews going into actually playing the game.
I mean, most of the reviews are really good.
Yeah. Like, everyone said, like, that was, like, the one negative, like,
Yeah.
if anything, like, across the board, like, the most,
Right.
the one that came out the most
It's like
was...
a big thing for me because I play these games almost exclusively for story.
Yeah. But, and here's my but, the stories on their own, I think, are actually really good and intriguing for the most part. Like, there's only one character I'm not overly fond of, and that's Haunted. They are, like, fairly, like, they're not doing anything, like, out of the norm, the stories. They are
They're
kind of,
sticking
like,
to their tropes.
Yeah. They are tropey, but they're still good. They're still fun. The game basically reminds me of if someone made an SNES D&D game. Because the way everyone gets together feels very much like a D&D game. Everyone kind of has their arc. You do see connections between the stories as you play them.
I know there are some, but, like, the characters don't interact.
Yeah, you'll see, like, recurring villains and stuff. So there is an overarching story. But yeah, it would have been nice to have more character interaction, for sure. And to not have a little bit of immersion breaking kind of scenes and stuff, because there is so little interaction. Like, even, like, a few lines here and there. But, I mean, I really thought about it, and I'm like, in most RPGs, you don't really get a lot of that, at least, like, in older ones. This is kind of, like, trying to be.
I guess.
Like, in FF6, did the characters really chime in that much beyond, like, 2 or 3 lines? for any given scene.
I'm
And that's
just-
kind of like what you
they're
get.
all like doing things in the story like while they were all theirs.
Yeah. I know.
Like,
I'm
they
just.
weren't- yeah. It wasn't. They weren't all on their own story with all the others in the background. You know, you weren't. Also, I heard another minor complaint is that it can get, especially the early stages, can get kind of repetitive.
Yeah, before you get all the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that too. But I didn't mind it as much just because the fighting and stuff was so fun. Like, you do lots of dungeon stuff. I think the dungeon design could be a little better too, but
I think like it basically if you can make it through everyone's first chapter, you'll be fine with the rest of the game. Like that's kind of the make or break, which luckily there's a demo of.
Mm-hmm.
You can just play everyone's first chapter through the demo.
Yep.
And see if it's actually the game for you, right?
Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it in the first 3 hours, you know you're not going to like the game pretty much. But
basically, you have to do everyone's first chapter because of the levels. Like you can go on to the second
you don't
chapters,
have to. You don't have to. You can
harder.
even not get some characters, but
Right,
it would be more difficult. I love the job system. I really like the story actually so far. I like finding the connections between everyone's story. Like, oh, this guy was here at this point probably, and these things are like you can kind of see how they're like starting to connect, and what like the final dungeon that supposedly like actually interweaves everything together.
Right.
It feels very much like a D&D game in the way like everyone has an arc and a goal, and everyone like helps in the party helps each other fulfill their goals and their tasks they're trying to do. And they do very much feel like D&D, like character background, like stuff they have to do. Like for instance, Therion the Thief, like doesn't want to trust anyone because his former partner stabbed him in the back. And now he's got roped into basically helping out a noblewoman find these 3 artifacts that she wants. So that's like a D&D character story, basically. Like, Ophelia, the cleric, is on a journey to, like, bring part of the sacred flame to all the different churches across the world. So, like, she does it in place of her adopted sister who can't go on the journey because her dad's sick. It's got little stuff like that, and they meet and interact and help each other out like an actual D&D game. It just would have been nice to have a little bit more character interaction. And the way it kind of, like, I guess is all gonna come together in one final boss dungeon arc thing also kind of feels very D&D to me. So it feels like they tried to make, like, a D&D game, like, but, like, 20 years ago, I guess, or more now, the SNES era. But, I don't know, it's great. I love it.
Apparently it's doing well, so might even get a sequel.
It shipped over 1 million copies. I hope it does, or at least they make like Bravely Default 2. It doesn't have to be the same characters, but
I mean, Bravely Default 2 was half the same characters.
Yeah, but like this, like game system and style, and maybe like take
also,
people's feedback.
Is really good.
Yeah, the music is amazing. It's like if you love SNES era RPGs, if you liked Bravely Default, you're gonna like the game. I think if you're all about that system. If like having lots and lots of character interaction like a Tales game is like your selling point for why you like role-playing games, then you might not be as interested in the game. So,
like, I think I'd enjoy playing it. I just don't feel like getting around to it right now.
Yeah, it's a backlog game for now, in a sense.
Yeah.
Wait till it goes on sale, basically. But
it's kind of where I'm at.
It's really good. I think it's going to take me like 100 hours to beat it, too.
Yeah, I also heard it's a long game.
I enjoy the crap out of playing it.
Part of me right now just kind of wants to go back through Persona 5 also, which is a
I've been watching
commitment
someone
unto
stream
itself.
Persona 5, so I've been like, for the first time, so I've been like vicariously experiencing it again through him. But
see, the problem with me is when I watch someone stream, it makes a game I like, it makes me want to play the game.
Yeah, I
It doesn't scratch that itch.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, this is everything I wanted it and thought it would be and hoped it to be. And it's like even slightly exceeded it. I don't know how anything's going to beat this for me for the rest of the year. DQ11
Wow.
Mott. DQ11 Mott.
Oh, yeah,
I think if
that's what
anything
I'm waiting
contends with
for.
Octopath for Game of the Year for me, it's going to be DQ11. I haven't been this in love with a game since Persona 5, which was only a year and a half ago. So, but it's really good. It's my favorite Switch game so far. So it's taken the place of Breath of the Wild for favorite Switch game. It's not a better game than Breath of the Wild. If I had to rate it, I probably would give it an 8. But
it's just your jam.
Yeah, it's totally me. I love old school SNES style RPGs. I play it at my friend's house all the time. That's where I grind on weekends before we game. I can take it on the go with me. I can chill out for. It is like all the reviews say, where it's like a perfect like pick up and play for 2 hours, because that's about how long it takes to beat someone's chapter. It is perfect for like right before bed or like get home and veg out kind of game and play for a few hours. I don't know. It's just really good. I can't praise it enough. It has flaws, but the flaws are not insurmountable here, and it's the perfect love letter to any Super NES style games, and it just looks beautiful. I love the art direction.
Yeah, I do like the art style.
Yeah, I love the sprites and the pop-up 3D book, like world and stuff. And I really love the character art. I think it's the guy who does the tactics art.
Oh.
And it's also Bravely Default's character artwork. So
I do not love Bravely Default's in-game art style as much. Like it's that.
It's like the Final Fantasy IV DS art style.
Yeah, it's that generic Square
Chibi.
Enix DS game.
Yeah,
it's the same thing that the new Mana game did, and
yeah,
it's the same thing.
Do sprites, man. Like, sprites look good.
Yeah,
they always look good. So yeah, But yeah, if you know if Octopath's going to be the game for you, you know if it isn't, like it's not for Tets.
Yeah.
Tets does not want to grind.
But yeah,
JRPGs are not the game for Tets. I can't wait to finish it, because once I finish it, I'm going to start playing Shining Force Refrain. Which also got really good scores and looks good.
Spider-Man's out soon as well?
Spider-Man is in September, I think.
Oh, okay. Is it? Then DQ11 is first?
Yep, I'm definitely playing Dragon Quest 11 first. So Shining Force Refrain is going to be what gets me through to DQ11.
Yeah.
The people who've been playing Spider-Man have actually said like the best part of the game is Peter Parker, which excites me so far.
There are apparently I just saw a list of like some of the costumes. It was a big list.
I think Laura's voicing Mary Jane in the game too.
Oh, neat. I just saw a trailer about Mary Jane being in it, but I hadn't watched it yet.
Yeah.
I will play as Spider Noir, but I doubt I get a revolver to shoot people.
No, just your web bullets.
Which supposedly Nicolas Cage will be Spider Noir in the animated movie coming out, Into the Spider-Verse.
Oh, okay.
Which will be.
Is that the Miles Morales one?
Yep.
Okay.
And well, it's the Spider. Yeah, he's like the focus, but it is a Spider-Verse movie, so they already showed off. I think 2 of the Peter Parkers.
Yeah, it's like
Spider-Gwen is going to be in it.
Yeah. They're getting their own series movie thing too. Isn't Spider-Gwen and like Squirrel Girl and a couple other characters they're getting like a movie or show or something.
I hadn't heard of that. But Into the Spider-Verse looks so good.
But yeah.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap it up here. This has been episode 61 of Podcast 5 Rings, your source of enlightenment in the realm of video games, tabletop, anime, film, and tech. Each episode of Podcast 5 Rings releases Monday mornings on iTunes and SoundCloud, and talk about topic day by day on YouTube, with the full video releasing on Friday. Check us out on Twitter, Podcast5R, Facebook, P5R Podcasts. We got the streams, twitch.tv/PSOFlow and Podcast 5 Rings. You know the spiel. And I don't have to say anything. Someday, both of us will stream again.
Sure.
Lily and them have not been streaming a lot lately either, so.
Oh yeah, they had the whole marriage and now Gencon.
All the life stuff.
Yeah.
Life. It comes
Silly
really fast.
life.
Yeah, I know. It's a good cereal and a bad board game.
I don't know that it's a good cereal.
Bum. It's alright. It's like mid-tier cereal. Reese's Puff is like top-tier cereal in my opinion.
Golden Grams is my one true
Golden
love.
Grams is good too.
Mm-hmm.
I like any flavor of Cheerios, Reese's Puff cereal, Cocoa Puffs. Then anything with like cinnamon in it, and then like the rest is like there's some okay cereal, and then whatever. I remember as a kid, I was like really big on Kix.
Got a kick out of it.
Oh, you. That was a much better joke than mine. My life cereal joke. But anyways, let's go. I'm gonna go eat some pasta and play some Octopath Traveler. So.
Later.
Bye.